everyone, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with another PB&J card class. This is video number 5 in our series of 8 videos called Sketch School, where I am revisiting sketches from previous videos and ebooks and using them with new Penny Black Christmas themed goodies and just sharing how I make sketches work for me and what new or just loved products I have in my stash that I want to be able to use. And the sketch just gives me that starting point to do that, and showing how you can return to the same sketch over and over and over again. And let me tell you, this is a sketch that I go to all the time. I would say it's my favorite go-to sketch because it's so easy and it's so simple. So this is the original sketch. It is just a standard size card or a 5x7 size card with an image stamped toward the center, or you can do it off the sides or off the edges, and a stenciled panel in the middle. And it is amazing how that stenciled panel, just a rectangle or a circle, totally finishes the card. It's a 1-layer card, super simple, and I just go to this all the time. So if you do love sketches, I do have 3 ebooks that are full of sketches and card ideas and variations on those sketches, and I'll list and link those for you down below. So let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, this is a super easy sketch because all you got to do to prep for it is cut some cardstock. And I almost always have cardstock ready. This is just standard A2 size, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, but you could also do 5x7. They all work with our stencil set. Now, I did want to give this a different variation that I've done in the past and actually do some embossing. So I am stamping here Penny Black's stamp called, this is from the Fragile set. And I'm stamping it with Versamark ink. You did see me go ahead and run my anti-static powder tool over the top of this panel. I'm sprinkling that with gold embossing powder, and then I will heat that to set. Now, all of the paper that I'm using here is Canson 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, and all the supplies I'm using are listed and linked for you down below in the YouTube description box below. So if you're wondering what anything is, or the colors, or what stamp, what die, it's all listed for you down there. So now I'm going to use Distress Ink Reinkers used as watercolors to go ahead and paint in this image. Now, most of this is embossed. So like these pine needles or these branches, most of what's going to show is that gold embossing. So I am going to put a light layer of Evergreen Bough Distress Ink sort of going around those so that you get a sense of that color, and also some Forest Moss Distress Ink, just sort of giving a light background to this. And you can see there, I'm just painting that on. With this, such a beautiful image in the gold, honestly, I think you could skip painting it. To be honest, you could just do this and do the stenciling and you'd have a really elegant holiday card. Very simple, great for a beginner even, or if you have a lot to make or a lot to mail. These are all just 1 layer. Now once I've kind of done that very light background, I'm just going to put in some of that forest moss. So that's a real nice dark green, and paint right over the top of that embossing. I can go back and add more or go back with water and blend that out, but I'm keeping it pretty concentrated so you can actually see it and have some contrast between that color and the gold embossing. And a little touch of Evergreen Bough. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but up near the top of those branches. You can see there, just blending that out a little bit with the Evergreen Bough. I'll go ahead and heat that to set. You can get a little peek there at that beautiful gold of the embossing. And then I'm just going to paint in the berries. I do love that bright red. So even if you didn't want to paint the background or those branches, if you just painted the berries even, that would be really beautiful. And I'm just putting a really light layer on this so it's sure to dry before I do my background stenciling. So Penny Black has a set of stencils, their Background Basics stencil set that has all different 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch stencils to do this sketch with, and 5x7 stencils if you want to do a larger card. They all come together. You even get the middle pieces if you want to do some masking. So all I've done is just tape that to my panel, and I am applying my inks using an ink blending tool and a foam pad. I added some distress ink in the color of Peacock Feathers and Evergreen Bough, and then here I'm just putting a little Memento Toffee Crunch on that to kind of tone it down and give it just a little bit more of a vintage sort of look to it. And actually that background was just Peacock Feathers and now this Toffee Crunch. Sorry about that. There was no Evergreen Bough in there. Now I've masked off the bottom part of the card. It's still in the stencil, and I've grabbed our music note background and in a very light color ink. So this is Viridian Archival ink, and I chose it because of the color I am stamping. So this is a very light color, and you see I'm stamping it multiple times. That is because I would rather start light and slowly build up the color so I can stop before it goes too dark, because I want these music notes here, but I just want them to be barely there on that background. So that's why I often start light and just slowly build it up, and there I just put a touch of that Toffee Crunch on there up in the corners. I love that very subtle background stamping sort of through that stencil. You'll also notice when I stamped this design, I did go off the edge. So part of it extends beyond that center stenciled background. But look at this. Once you remove that stencil, the finished card design, what that stenciling adds is so much. It's just done. That's why I love this sketch, and I think I go to it a lot. You can grab any stamp that you want to use, and you will have a finished card that you're happy with. So now here I have stamped another new penny black stamp, Mistletoe, and I've stamped it again on that Canson 140-pound watercolor paper. This time I used Archival ink in the color of Watering Can, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint this again using the Distress ink Reinkers used as watercolors. And then I also pressed that Toffee Crunch ink pad onto my acrylic block, and I'm just picking that up now to paint that in. I love that color because it just never is, it's like a tan color that doesn't go yellow. So I stamp with it a lot, I ink the backgrounds with it a lot, and I also sometimes use it for painting. Now I'll go ahead and paint in the image. If you are in the mood to color or paint, if you like colored pencils or Copic markers, whatever it is, this sketch will work for you. Just stamp however you would normally stamp your design, and then use those background basic stencils to just finish it off. So here I am just painting in this. I start by putting my dabbing my paintbrush into my palette, which is those reinkers, and then putting that where I want the color to be darkest. Then off camera, I just rinse off my brush, pat it on the paper towel to dry it a little bit, and then go back and blend that color. Now I can also go back, as I'm doing now, and add some color where I want it to be darker, and just sort of play around with those areas of light and dark. If I want to lift some color, I go in with what would be called a thirsty paintbrush. So it's been patted dry, and you can kind of just go in and lift some of the color if it's still wet. Now, if you would like to see more on my painting process, I'll link a video for you down below that goes into much more detail and much slower on sort of my painting process and how I like to do that. I'm just going through and painting these up. I just love, I love using the reinkers because they're really bright and vibrant. And I just love this sketch because sometimes I want to do a more intricate card. I want lots of die cutting and different steps to it and layers, but sometimes I just want to color. And so you can even have a stamping session and stamp a whole bunch of these panels ahead of time and just have them ready for whenever you want to color. And by using those stencils at the end, you don't have to give any thought to how am I going to turn this into a card? How am I going to design this? You can just paint it, add a stencil, and you're done, and you'll be happy with it. So I'll just keep painting these guys in. I think this stamp is so cute. Such a sweet card, or sweet stamp. You can see I'm doing that same process, putting it where I want it to be darkest. I can mix colors while it's still wet, so here I'm mixing Forest Moss and Evergreen Bough. Those two are a couple of my favorite to mix together for greens. And then I can go in and darken things up too. If once I've added more colors, I feel like that blue I felt like was just a little too light, I can go back in and add more layers on top. And these images are so sweet that you can add as much shading as you like to do, whatever is fun for you. But if you just do a flat wash of color without any shading even, they'll still look finished and they'll still look really nice because the illustration is such a high quality illustration that you get with penny black stamps. I'm even adding here, I'm going to lift a little color, and I think on this coat I even add a little bit of purple. Yes, just a touch of purple to darken things up. That's kind of an interesting combo with the red, but I feel like it darkens things but also gives it just a little bit of a faded, weathered look, and I like that with the red. It's not so in your face, that red. So don't be afraid to give that a try. Again, all the exact colors I'm using are listed for you down in that YouTube description. So the penny black products are listed and linked, and then there's a little section that says other supplies, and it'll tell you what brush I'm using, what colors I'm using, the inks, whatever you're interested in, it will be down there for you. So I'd love to know, have you ever tried this sketch? Have you used Penny Black's background basics stencil set? If you haven't seen that, it's listed below. Take a look because you'll see at all the different variety of stencils that are included in that. I just use it all the time. It's one of those, like I said, this is a go-to sketch I use. It's probably my favorite. I use it a lot. And the stencil set just makes it slick, makes it easy to do. So I am just painting here. I thought I would include a little bit of this painting with these images. They're just so fun to paint. And I love too how you can change up your colors with their clothes and give it a whole different look. So, I said you could stamp a bunch of images like in advance and have them ready to paint. You could also stamp the same image several times and then just go in and try different combinations with their clothing, color combinations that will give it a totally different look. So we'll give him a little blush here on his cheeks, and we'll go ahead and dry that. Now I finished painting that off camera. I've taped on my stencil. Now this is another standard size, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, but this is a different stencil. So you'll notice the outside portion that is sort of blocked off is larger than on the previous one. So you have some different options and it gives it a different look. Once you add your inking to the background, I added a little stamping here and you can see how easy that is to do. Now real quick here, I wanted to show you the stamp set. It's got the teddy bears on it. It's from Merry Days, but look at how beautiful that background stamping is. I just love using it with these stencils. So I just gave you a little peek there of that one. But so look at your stamps and see if you have some that you just might want to use on the backgrounds. So here's a look at all of the cards we created today. As you can see, all one layer, all really easy to do, but all look really finished. You can vary up your different backgrounds. There you can see again, that's that those branches that I showed you that are stamped up there in that corner. They work really well. I put them on this one too, but you can see this one is a circle. So that is included in that background basic stencil set. So here are some still shots of each of the cards. Like I said, I'd love to know if you've tried this sketch before, if you've tried the stenciling, and what you think of it. Leave me a comment down below. And I just thank you so much for watching. I read every comment that you guys write, and they're really just encouraging, and I thank you so much for doing that. If you've enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, like the video, subscribe, hit the bell notification. There's still more videos coming in this series, so if you hit that bell notification, you won't miss them. Thanks for watching.